started with me doing a film called they changed the title, I get confused all the time. Survive the Game. It was originally called Killing Field, that's why. Survive the Game with Bruce Willis in Puerto Rico. And it was an amazing experience. I got to work with a good friend of mine, a very talented director named James Bresack. And was in Puerto Rico for probably about 3 weeks, came back to Los Angeles. And about a month later, Bruce was doing another film in Puerto Rico that James was directing called The Fortress. And I managed to convince James to have me in that film too. And so I flew back to Puerto Rico and started my second film of that year with Bruce Willis. And if nothing else would have happened that year, that would have been pretty incredible. But the year just kept going on. I think after that, I did a movie for Lifetime. I did a couple other things, and a couple other things that will be coming out shortly. And I got a call to go back to The Bold and Beautiful, and I think it was like maybe like August of last year. And I think I started that following September, so it was pretty quick. And you know, it was amazing. It was an amazing way to top the year off. I have worked on The Bold and Beautiful since 2000 or 2001 is when I started playing Deacon Sharp. And I've been off and on the show more times than I can count. And it was 2002. So we said 2000. 2000. And every time I go and do that show, it's an amazing experience. I love the people that I work with. It's creatively a really fantastic environment to work in, and it's just always kind of felt like my home on television. And I'm currently on there now, and it's once again been a fantastic experience so far.
So they didn't have to twist your arm at all to bring you back to...
Well, they didn't have to twist my arm. The biggest thing was whether or not we could do the scheduling. Because I had a lot of other stuff going on. We were also filming Studio City, which is my show on Amazon Prime, that my beautiful wife Michelle here is she's one of the executive producers and one of the head writers. And so I always joke that I'm very lucky I get to sleep with the producer. And so I have job security. And I hope. And what else? In 2021, so Way of the Cobra came out I think in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, right, Michelle? Anyway, there was a lot of stuff going on, and we just had to make sure that it jived scheduling wise. And when we found out that it was going to, I was very excited. I was so excited to come back and work with people, some of whom I've worked with when I first came on in 2021. So
yeah, they're pretty good about keeping cast members around, you know, and not recasting as much as some of the other shows do.
That is true. That is true. You know, I'm very fortunate. I'm the only actor that's ever played the role of Deacon Sharp, so I'm very possessive over that character. But they do recasts for a number of reasons, and fortunately that hasn't happened.
No, you see a lot. The GAs do a lot of recasts, a lot of temporary recasts. Some because of the pandemic, some for other reasons. Yeah. But
and I was one of them. I was when I played AJ Quartermain, I replaced Gerald Hopkins, and before that there was, I guess, a little kid who played AJ, and then after me, Billy Warlock, and then I came back again in 2015 for the 50th anniversary of General Hospital to reprise the role. So, you know, it happens.
Both are beautiful. You get to work with Kimberly Brown, who's one of the all-time soap villains ever. You had to be excited about that prospect.
You know what's funny is Kimberlyn and her husband have a place in Palm Springs where my wife and I have a place too, and so we knew each other socially, but we never worked together. And I wasn't really super familiar with what her history was in daytime. I just knew that she was crazy in the best possible way. So, you know, when they put us together, I think they thought, well, we're going to put these two characters together that are sort of villains, although I would argue that Deacon Sharp's not really a villain. But I think the thing that they didn't count on in a good way was that Kimberly and I were able to find a lot of the funny in these two characters. You know, that's one of the things that I think doesn't exist enough on daytime that exists so often in our normal lives. We use humor. People use humor for everything. We use it to deal with crazy situations. We deal when things are funny. You don't see it a lot in soap operas because soap operas are so heavy and dramatic. And so I've always kind of been a big proponent of trying to insinuate funny into it wherever I can. And Kimberlin's kind of the same way. And it was an unlikely relationship that so far has worked pretty well, and I love working with her.
So lately B&B has been dabbling in do we want to pair Taylor with Deacon?
Yeah.
What do you fans think of that? Do we approve of Taylor and Deacon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's some yeses. Okay, we have any who objects to that pairing? No. Okay, so you're solid there. Is there anything you can tease the fans?
Well, I honestly, okay, first of all, I don't know more than probably in most cases, about 2 weeks what's going to happen. I honestly don't know what long-term storyline is going to dictate. I have probably 6 or 7 scripts right now, so I know what's going to be happening in them. Of course, we can't share that information, but so far, when Taylor took off to go to Monte Carlo, that was kind of goodbye with Deacon, and then there was this really fantastic and somewhat unexpected fan outpouring of support for these 2 characters. And look, I think that the producers and writers certainly pay attention to that. They take into consideration what the fans think. And sometimes people have chemistry together, sometimes they don't. Sometimes the fans respond to 2 actors working together, other times they don't. And in this case, it seems like people are really responding, so I hope that they will continue to write. But Deacon was in prison for 5 years, and to the best of my knowledge, still hasn't, gotten lucky. So at this point, the guy's living in a broom closet, can't get a date, and he's working as a janitor. So I think, a date with Taylor would be a real upgrade in his life.
So, all right. So if you I know you have limited, if any, influence over the writers, but if you have a choice, just you, a choice between Deacon falling back into his old ways or getting a redemption story, which would you rather play?
I don't think, one of the things that's always interested me with the characters that I play is it's these nanoshades of gray in people. Very few people are good, very few people are bad. Bad people do good things, good people do bad things. And so I've always seen Deacon as kind of an anti-hero. So I think, rather than say a redemption story, I think it would be interesting if Deacon finally got sort of a financial base and a shot at being the guy that he could possibly be. But I don't think that necessarily means that he has to be redeemed as being this, morally, completely good character. I think he can be a guy who gets a shot, maybe has a couple scores to settle, does some good things, but he also is not afraid to get his hands dirty. And so I would like to see him continue being what I see as a character that's an anti-hero, but just have more of a power base to do that.
How would you get Deacon Sharp to read Sean Kanan's book?
How would I? Well, listen, Deacon had a lot of time to do reading in prison, so Deacon may have already read the book. And listen, he's made some monumental changes in his life, so I believe he very well has read the book.
Okay, let's talk about your book for a minute.
Sure.
How are people taking the book, the ones that have read it, and then giving you feedback?
So for those of you that aren't aware of it, I have a book called Way of the Cobra. It's my 3rd book, far and away the most personal book that I've written. And it's a motivational and self-help book that also draws on a lot of my own personal autobiographical stories, struggles I've had, challenges that I've had to deal with and overcome. The book has done incredibly well. As a matter of fact, right before Michelle and I left to come here, I realized that we are once again out of books. And so we're now going into our 3rd printing of the book, which has been a blessing. I wrote this book at a time when I had some pretty good success in my life, and I had a couple of pretty big failures, some of them somewhat public. And I was looking in the mirror going, okay, what's next? What is my next act in life going to be? And I was dealing with some significant challenges at that moment. I was 35 pounds overweight. I had no prospects for any acting jobs. And I realized that I needed to do some things very differently, very quickly. And these are the strategies and the philosophy that I used to make some monumental changes in my life. And in that 1 year, I lost 35 pounds, now almost 45. And my second book called Success Factor X became an Amazon new release bestseller. And we got Studio City on the air on Amazon Prime, and we were nominated for 16 Emmys, and we won 3 of them. And I don't say that to people to impress them. I say to impress upon them what's possible when you make some specific changes. And the book covers how I did it. And I always tell people, before you think that I'm levitating on top of a mountain in Kathmandu, contemplating my navel, I've made every mistake in this book 15 times over. So for me, the way the book is structured is that I'm the sensei, you're in my dojo, and Cobra is an acronym. It's formed from the words character, optimization, balance, respect, and abundance. And I realized that if I was going to have any credibility with my readers, and if I was going to elevate myself to the position of being a sensei, of a teacher, that I had to be willing to share with you, my readers, in the most honest and vulnerable way that I could, some of my struggles. And a lot of people, especially with the pandemic, people were really in difficult emotional positions. They'd either lost jobs, they'd lost loved ones, they were eventually trying to rematriculate back into the workforce after not having been there. Kids had been not being socialized for a year or more in school, dealing with Zoom, which is going to have long-ranging negative repercussions, I think, as things go. Come on in, you can come in. Or not. I still get paid. Just kidding. I wanted to write a book that I thought could really help people. And I wish somebody gave me this book when I was a young man. It would have hopefully saved me a lot of pain and a lot of mistakes. But it's doing very well. And I'll add one last thing to it, that the sequel to the book, which is going to be called Way of the Cobra, Welcome to the Kumite, is going to be coming out this fall. And I'm very proud of it and very excited for that to be coming out.
Tell the folks about today, the little boy that had a problem with anxiety.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, we had this little boy came up, and he had like an allowance or something. It was very clear he had a finite amount of money that he was going to spend, and he was asking me a lot about my book. And his mother said to me, well, he's very anxious. And I said, I get anxiety too. I said, believe it or not. And a lot of times people have trouble believing that. They think because I'm an actor, because I'm able to speak in front of crowds. I used to get anxiety too, and I still do sometimes. And I said to him, listen, if you're anxious, that's kind of symptomatic of the fact that you're worried about the future. And he goes, yeah, I do worry about my future. And of course, the future is completely unwritten. It's out of our hands. There's nothing we can do about it. And I said, if you get depressed, I'm not talking about someone who's clinically depressed and takes medication. I'm talking about what, especially in America, we refer to as being depressed far too often. I said, that's because you're concentrating on the past, that you're worried about something that's already happened, or you're remorseful about something. And I said, the secret to combating that anxiety is to live in the present. And I said, you know how you do that? And he said, how? And I said, you do it through gratitude. You do it by being grateful. And I said, for me, and this isn't a religious discussion, but for me, every morning before the first thing I do when I wake up, I get on my knees and, I name 5 things I'm thankful for. And if you can't think of something, the fact that you woke up's a pretty good one. And I could see this little kid's wheels start turning. And, he wound up purchasing one of the books. And I actually turned to Rob and I said, that for me is what it's about. I mean, it's wonderful to come here and, meet everybody. And, we're here, we sell merchandise, all that's wonderful too, but I said, when I get a little kid that is at that formative age where when you say something to him, it can actually make a difference, and I get to participate in that, man, that's like, I feel like that was a good day. You know what I mean?
When that kid left, he was dancing on air.
Yeah.
His Joker cape was floating. He was having a blast.
Yeah, it was
And
pretty
it was
special.
a beautiful thing to watch. And speaking of beautiful thing to watch, just me standing next to you watching you interact with Michelle. I would like to hear that love story. How did you two meet?
Oh boy.
How long ago?
This is an IG live, so I have to be very careful when I say it. But the long and the short of it is that I met Michelle, and she was, when I first met her, she was very upset about something. And she was kind of ranting and raving to a mutual friend of ours, and I looked at her and I was like, I'm gonna marry that woman. And I knew I was gonna marry her. It was literally a love at first sight thing, which is crazy, but I knew I was going to. And we went out for lunch together, and lunch has turned into what was just our 10th anniversary on July 8th. And you know, for me, it's funny because I talk a lot about this in the new book. I talk about relationships, and you know, you have to be ready if you want to have sort of a monogamous, long-term relationship. You know, sometimes two different people meet themselves at different times in their lives, and it just doesn't work out because, unfortunately, and I say in the book, you might want to put your mouthpiece in for this, but love does not conquer all. It really doesn't. You have to not only have mutual respect, but your ships have to be sailing in the same direction. You have to want the same things, or eventually it's not going to work out. And I knew very much that I was ready to, be in a relationship with somebody and only one person. And I knew I wanted to be Michelle. And we wound up living with each other briefly, but I said to her, I'll only live with you with the understanding that we're going to get married, in about a year. And I managed to bamboozle her into doing it, saying yes, and it's been a pretty good deal.
You have a beautiful little fur baby.
We do. Yes,
Cement
we
the
have
family once and for all.
our little pug Charlie, who goes everywhere with us. We are officially the crazy dog people. That's a baby character with a dog. So, hey, happy wife, happy life. We're going to say.
Let's open it up to the folks. I'm sure some of you have questions. The panel is being recorded, so I'd ask you, if you have a question for Sean, please use the microphone over there. Anybody like to start us off, this gentleman? What's your name, sir?
Jordan.
Jordan?
Nashville.
And you're from Nashua, is that what you said?
Yep.
Nashua, New Hampshire. Okay, and your question for Sean?
Do you prefer TV or movies?
That's a good question. I like different things about each of them. With film, what I really like is the fact that when you make a movie, whether it's a piece of crap or it's a good movie, it's there, it's a part of cinematic history, it's there in perpetuity. There are times that I've done movies that I wish they weren't, but they are. Television is much more disposable. Now some of the very best stuff that's out there is on television. Television has changed dramatically, I would say, in the last 15 years, where some of the best talent, some of the best directors are working in television. What I like about television is it moves much more quickly. Generally speaking, you're not going on location, so if you have a family, at least for me in Los Angeles, I can do it there, you're not going on a location. What is more challenging about television as opposed to film is that with film, you tend to have a longer period of rehearsal, the ability to kind of deconstruct the role. They take a lot longer to film a movie than a TV show for a number of reasons. And so I think in a lot of instances, you got a better shot at doing your very best work in film because a scene that would maybe take 5 hours to shoot in television may very well take 2 days to shoot in film. And they're going to really cover it, all different angles. Different things about different ones. Personally, from an acting standpoint, what I like the best is theater. Because in theater, you've got 5 or 6 weeks of rehearsal. you know, and then once the curtain goes up, sink or swim, nobody else cut. And so I think each different medium has its pros and its cons.
With theater, you also get instant feedback.
Instant feedback, yeah, it's another reason why I love doing stand-up. You know, you get that instant reciprocity from the audience. You know if you're killing it, there's no feeling like that. And if you're not, there's no feeling like that either.
When you're on a front burner storyline, on a half hour show, how long is your work day?
So that's a good question. I get that a lot. Everybody thinks that soap operas are super, super grueling. They are in some respects and they're not in others. So for Bold and Beautiful, for instance, we're almost always off on Mondays. So we get long weekends. We have a month off in July and a month off during Christmas and New Year's. If you're in a front burner storyline, you probably are working 3 or 4 of the 4-day weeks that we shoot. But here's the thing, we have to bank shows because we're dark, like I said, during the month of July and then again Christmas. We have to have shows for all of those months when we're not working. So we don't do just 1 show a day, we do about 1.5 shows a day. So it's not unusual that I'll have to do 6 or 7 shows over 4 days. So for that period of time that I'm working, even though I have a lot of time off, it's less that the hours are grueling because they have it really well structured, because they do want to get you in and out as quickly as possible because, you know, there's overtime and there's a lot of considerations. But you have a tremendous amount of dialogue that you have to know and a lot of work. So for those 4 days, it's mentally, you know, it's a lot mentally. You have to bring your A game. You can't have bad days. Everyone has them, but you know, you really, do I get that?
No.
But you know, listen, that's a high-end problem. If you're working that many shows, that's a high-end problem. Because I don't know, a lot of people don't know this, but you get paid by the show. So you want to be doing as many shows as you can.
Okay. Do you have any further follow-ups, Jordan?
Just looking forward to Cobra Kai.
Thank you very much. I am too. I hear season 5 is going to be very good.
That's all you're getting. Thank you for your question.
Thanks, buddy.
Does anybody else have a question at the present?
Sure.
A bunch of shy folks. Okay, please. Yeah. What is your name, sir?
My name's Dan. I'm
From
from Woken, Connecticut.
Wilka, and I didn't catch the name.
Dan.
Dan. Okay. Your
Okay.
question?
The first thing I want to say is Mike Ron's is the most awesome villain in the Karate Kid series.
Thank you.
And that's over Johnny Lawrence. My question is about Studio City.
Yeah.
And I hit you up on Twitter about this. I just said, season 1, episode 6. Wow.
Yeah.
When you sat silent and you watched your mother tell the story. Now, I'm not gonna tell the story. Go watch Studio City on Amazon Prime. But how did you feel? Because you looked like you were. I mean, I don't know if it was camera angles, but you looked like you were feeling. So tell me about it.
Yeah. So for those of you that haven't seen Studio City, it's on Amazon Prime. There's a scene where my mother relays some really heavy information to me about my past that I was unaware of. And Patricia Darbo, who plays my mother on Studio City, has this brilliant monologue, and I don't really say anything. And you know, she's so good at it that all I had to do was remain present. For me, the important thing was I just had to listen and be affected by her words. And you know, a lot of times, really present, good acting isn't about what you say. It's about how you're affected by what someone else is saying. You know, it's not just someone else is talking and I'm waiting for my cue to let me know that it's my turn to talk. It's that remaining present during the entire scene and not having a predetermined idea of what it's going to look like and allow it to affect you moment to moment. And you know, that's kind of my philosophy or part of it in acting. And really, she was so wonderful. Was nominated for an Emmy for her performance, and I think largely because of that monologue, which I know she submitted to the Emmys, that she did all the heavy lifting. I just had to sort of sit there and listen.
Speaking of Studio City, what's the current status of the show?
So the current status of the show is that we put out 6 new episodes, and it's kind of funny. We won the Daytime Emmy for our category, and they eliminated our category. And so this year we had to compete in the Primetime Emmys, which means we're competing against all of the shows that have multi-million-dollar marketing and advertising budgets, etc. And we're kind of like this little engine that could that we make on a shoestring. And we sort of wanted to see what happened with the Emmys, and we gave it a real good run. We didn't get nominated this year. And now my partners and I are discussing what we want to do, whether we intend on filming some more episodes right away, or possibly going back and restructuring the show so that it will have a longer format, so there would be a 30-minute show. And these are all decisions that we're probably going to be making sometime in the next month. But this is my baby. This is a show that I've tried to get made for 15 years, and through a lot of hard work, through a lot of very fortunate partnerships, not the least of whom is my wife Michelle, and our other creative partner who directs all the episodes, Timothy Woodward Jr. We were able to get it made, and so I'm fully committed to this. This is one of the best roles that I've ever had, because it's a role I wrote for myself. And so I want to see Studio City continue. There's financial considerations and considerations of whether we can get all the actors who are currently a part of it to continue, but we're all doing our best to make it happen, and hope to be bringing you more Studio City as soon as possible.
Questions? Anyone? Somebody's got to want to know something. Right? All right. Let's see. I know, listen, back to Bold and Beautiful for a minute. Days has 8 months of shows in the can. They've done very far in advance. Bold and Beautiful, about 5-6 weeks, something like that?
In some cases, I don't even think 5 or 6 weeks. I actually just had COVID about a couple weeks ago. And I wasn't the only person who got it on the show. And when that happens, it just throws everything into chaos, because you can never tell when it's going to happen. And suddenly, one or more of your actors can't come in, and obviously you can't shoot all of their stuff, and it just throws everything into complete chaos. So we try to get as much as we can in the can, finished. But over the course of the last year, there have been bouts of COVID that have completely, turned the schedule on its head. I would be stunned if we have 8 months in advance. We definitely have stuff in advance, but I don't think it's that
No,
much.
Days has been doing that for years.
Yeah.
It was way before the pandemic. They shoot that far in advance. I just couldn't believe it. People were like, oh my God, this person, died 6 months ago,
Right.
and they still haven't finished their run.
Right.
So it can be, a little jarring at sometimes, but I know you had to have some in the can, and I guess pandemic really,
Sure.
really
Of course
changed
you do.
all of the rules.
Of course. I know that when the pandemic was really in full swing, General Hospital started airing what they call classic episodes, which I thought was really funny, that I've now become a part of the classic episodes of General Hospital. So talk about feeling old. I know that I'm actually Tuesday, I'm going to be filming parts of episodes that I filmed right before I got COVID. So the span of when I started filming that episode to when it's going to be finished is actually going to be close to 2 months, which is extremely atypical.
But did you wait those fall in there?
No, not at all. No, I wish.
They did a scene on GHS that one of the kids was on there, and he had a different haircut. From the other perspective.
That happens. I know it does happen sometimes. Obviously we try really, really hard. Listen, sometimes, I'd be guilty of this. I'll shave sometimes, and I'll go, oh shit. I said, oh God, I got a match, don't I? And they can kind of do a little bit, like they can kind of, you know, cover some of it with makeup, but you can't exactly, remember when you were a kid for Halloween, guys, and you like make the hobo beard? You can't do that. That doesn't work on high definition network TV. So there have definitely been times when I've like run out and gotten a haircut or done stuff like that when I shouldn't have. And it occurs to me that I just went and got a straight razor shave 2 days ago. I'm supposed to have a fairly heavy beard before I go back Tuesday. So. We'll see what happens.
GH. Any unfinished business with AJ Cornerman?
No.
Not for you. You got everything.
No, I feel very blessed that I was able to play that character. I was extremely honored and flattered that they brought me back after 15 years to rejoin the cast for the 50th anniversary. You know, for me, Bold the Beautiful really is my home on television, and you know, I so enjoy playing the show. Not that I didn't enjoy playing AJ Quarterman, but I just feel like I've gotten so much more kind of creative latitude, and it's just a very supportive environment for me. So I'm very happy to be here.
I make a distinction in my life between colleagues, acquaintances, and friends.
Okay.
All right? You have any lifelong, honest to God friends that you've made while working in daytime?
Well, Steve Burton and I are cousins through marriage. Steve and I have known each other since probably 1988. So, you know, Steve's not somebody that I see all the time, but he is a lifelong friend. You know, almost everyone I work with is more than an acquaintance. You know, I think when you're acting, in a lot of ways, there's a level of intimacy when you're acting. It's not just doing scenes with women that I'm talking about. I mean, you know, you're sort of bearing your soul and bringing vulnerability to the scenes you're doing, and there has to be a certain level of trust with the other actor that you're working with. And I think, in a weird way, you can not know somebody very well and then work for a while, and then suddenly you've created a relationship. And that's one of the things I like about working on a soap opera. You know, I haven't worked with every single actor on the show, and they throw you in with somebody new, and you only know them to sort of say hi to them in the makeup room and hi in the hall and that sort of thing. And then suddenly you're working with them every day. You're in their dressing room rehearsing. You're learning about you know their life. They're learning about yours. And you form some kind of a bond. And so I think that's one of the nicest benefits of doing what I do. But I like to think that I've, in one way or another, made an impression on everybody that I've had the chance to work with, and that it's been, for the most part, positive. And you know, I consider a lot of the people that I work with friends. It doesn't mean that I socialize with them all the time, because frankly, you know, everyone's got families, and at the end of the day, after spending all day with each other, you know, we're not looking to go grab dinner. We want to get back to our other lives. It's kind of like that show Severance. Have you guys seen that show Severance? Where severance is you can basically cut out a part of your brain where you don't remember your outside life, you only remember your work life. So I'm gonna have my work life and I have my outside life. And once I'm done with my work life, as much as I like those people, I'm very ready to resume my outside life.
You have another question? Your name, please?
Sean, one of your classmates has joined your Instagram live to comment.
Oh, who is it? Who is it? Hi. Wait a minute. Is that Phil? Oh my God! You know what? That's Phil. That's Phil Bruin, who is a terrific actor. Phil plays my character's arch nemesis. He plays Kevin Stringer. That's his soap opera name. That's great, man. Yeah, best frenemy I've ever had. Yeah. For those of you that haven't seen Studio City, please check it out. I always give this caveat that Amazon was going to get rid of all the short form content, I guess, that they had, and instead they decided to slap a 99-cent an episode fee on without letting any of us know it, which I wasn't in favor of. So a lot of people see that, and believe me, I'm not building my house in Malibu based on the 99-cent fee for the episodes of Studio City, but I really do hope that everyone will watch it because there's some terrific actors and terrific story, and we really are looking to build our audience. And Phil is one of the reasons why the show has been so successful.
And your name, please?
My name is Kyle,
Okay.
and from New Jersey, if that matters. Though originally born in Connecticut, so I'm glad to be back here.
Okay.
You spoke earlier about inspiring young people and trying to inspire a lot of people. Who have been the major people who have inspired you, and what have they said to you that really affected your life and changed your viewpoint?
Over the years, I definitely had some mentors, and I've had some people that have had profound influences on my life. One of them was one of my martial arts instructors, the late William Stoner. And when I was about 14, 15 years old, I told him that I wanted to pursue a career in acting. He didn't laugh at me. He said, "Look, you need to go follow your dream." And I was very much expected to eventually take over our family business, which was a chain of retail jewelry stores. My family had about 50 jewelry stores on the East Coast. It was a fairly big operation, and I was the only son. And so when I told my parents that I was going to go to Hollywood to be an actor, it was not that dissimilar to saying that I was going to run away and join the circus. And to say that there was some resistance and dismay would be a bit of be selling short. But it meant a lot to me that he said, they'll be okay. Go follow your dreams. My first acting teacher, the late Roy London, was a huge influence on me. My father's been a big influence on me, and my wife has honestly been one of the biggest influences and inspirations to me, and that's why I love her and why I feel so blessed to be with her. She continues to be that for me every day. How are we doing on time?
We have
5 minutes?
9 minutes.
9 minutes.
9 minutes.
You, sir, are fired. I saw you hold that 5-minute sign up. Okay. All right. I see what it is.
We don't fire the scouts.
Oh, okay.
We couldn't do this without the scouts. They've been with us for almost 10 years now. Okay, let's go to the book for a minute.
What?
Wait, let's get him on a microphone if he's going to tell it. He's going to give us some tea to spill. Come on.
Uh-oh. Hey, buddy. That's, Yeah, we did my character on Studio City, who was on a soap opera and has always wanted to be an action star. He finally fell in and gave his back a show. A bunch of Chinese people that I'm doing tour for. I finally get the shot to be an action star, and we're doing this kind of elaborate fight scene, multiple stunt guys the whole thing. And, I wound up getting punched in the face, which was not supposed to happen, but it did. And, not such a great story, Phil, now that I think about it. I got punched in the face. The scene came out great. All right, Phil, they can't hear you. All right, so we get time for probably one.
Speaking of fights,
Yeah.
you worked your martial arts into the fight with Rich Forrester.
Yes, I did. That was a lot of fun.
That.
That was a lot of fun. For those of you that don't watch Bold and Beautiful, we had an epic fight. You can actually probably Google it or find it on YouTube between Deacon and Ridge. And the actor that plays Ridge, who was from Connecticut, by the way, he's a fantastic actor named Torsten Kay. He and I both have, I don't want to say big egos, but neither one of us was going to let the stuntmen do their stunts, let's put it that way. And so they sort of let me choreograph this fight, which was great. And then I found out that I was going to get picked up and then thrown on a bed frame, which then shatters. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't need this stuff, man. Idiot! And so we wound up doing this elaborate fight, and it really turned out well. You know, it's not something that we do on daytime every day. Our director, who's terrific, her name is Jen Howard, directed it. You know, if you don't direct fight scenes, I mean, you know, it's a very specialized thing when you see someone direct John Wick, right? I'm not saying that this was John Wick, but directing fight scenes presents its own challenges and everything. And it just turned out really incredibly well. Torsten was terrific in it. You know, I like to think I carried my water. And it was just something you don't see on daytime every day. So if you haven't seen it and want to check out something kind of cool, just Google Deacon and Ridge fight or brawl. Yeah.
We have time for one more question.
It's clear that you really love your wife, and I love that. I'm really happily married too, and I see a lot of people that aren't, and it's a shame. But what do you think would be one of your keys to success? Having
In my marriage?
Yeah.
I think there's a couple. I think one is that you really do have to be honest and transparent. I think that's the first thing. I think you have to put your partner first, even when that's not always easy. I think you have to realize, and it's kind of hard with me, that, you know, my wife is also her own individual person who has her hopes and dreams and desires. It's not just, you know, being the Sean Kanan sidekick. And so, you know, I want to make sure that I'm helping her fulfill that as much as she's helping me fulfill all of mine. I think you got to keep things spicy and fresh. You know, I mean, you know, you got to be careful that you don't lull into that situation where you're roommates, and that can happen. You know, you have to fight against that, and you got to laugh together. And Michelle always jokes, this is so true, we both hate the same things. So I think ultimately our marriage is predicated on the fact that we both hate the same things.
I'd like to thank you all for coming. We're going to head back to Sean's table now. If you want to come back and get some autographs or pictures, or copy of the book.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, I'm still got a few days left.
Thank you so much for
And
coming.
then Sean will be doing his professional photo ops at 6:30 if you're one of the people that had an appointment for that. So thank you all for coming, and please tell Sean how you feel.